Hi there and welcome back to Japan, where I'm going to be giving you a reaction and review to the rather dramatically named Dawnslayer by NECRONOMIDOL. Something like that. As always, if you want to see the reaction, I've just done it, so you have to pause this video, click the little link in the description below that will open a separate YouTube player so you can watch that first of all. Sorry, we just have to do it this way now. And then you can pop back over here where I'm about to give you the review. So pause this video now if you haven't seen the reaction, if you want to watch the song with me first of all. Otherwise, here comes the review. Okay, don't say I didn't warn you. So this one, as I was warning before I actually went into watching the reaction, I was kind of worried with the real heavy sounding name Dawnslayer and NECRONOMIDOL. I was like, this sounds like something which could creep into that Broken by the Scream territory, and obviously I don't want to spend my entire time slagging off Broken by the Scream. That's one of the reasons why I stopped reviewing them. I wasn't enjoying it on any real level. I could see things in it, but I wasn't enjoying it on any real level, and now I'm bringing that over onto a completely different review. But I do think it's a relevant case because, as I say, there's so many of these groups who have been doing this, whether you call it kawaii metal or crossover between metal and idol pop. So many different ways we've heard that done. That I don't always think the heavier variety necessarily works. When it's just, okay, we're going to do pop, but we're going to basically sing metal, it doesn't always work. Sometimes it sounds like the combination needs a little bit of the poppy element to be brought in. So I was concerned that this was just going to be, hey, let's scream a lot. And it couldn't have been further from that. This does definitely go for the more of a direction of, well, let's just get a girl group to sing, a metal song, because this feels more like an actual metal song than most groups normally go for. I mean, I've always been impressed by how well Baby Metal have managed to really lean into the metal and keep it convincing, but not every group has that quality of writer on their side, and that's where a lot of the problems come in. This is really well written, though. I like the change-ups in the rhythm, fairly simple rhythmic choices, but they're really well done, really well sort of constructed. It never feels jarring. I always say it's good when you have changes in a piece of music, but they should feel like something where when it happens, it might be a bit of a surprise, like, oh, we're going in this direction, but it feels in the same time natural, rather than just jarringly, oh, I'm going to slap the audience in a different direction, like, here we go, we're going left now. You want it to feel like something where it's exciting rather than tiring. And this certainly feels like, the changes are nice. As I say, the chorus didn't feel at all, I didn't even really notice it was a chorus. I wasn't sure where the chorus was coming in at first. Not that a song really has to have an identifiable chorus, but if it's going to be a single, you kind of assume it will. And that was kind of nicely grew on me, that by the second time the chorus came around, I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Kind of getting it. Okay, so this is the bit we come back to. This is our hook. And then by the third time, it was like a nice crescendo. So I really like the way they played that out. However, as I point out in the reaction, I really have to go into this. I found the mix to be, I'm just going to say it, awful. I mean, the mix was really bad. Now, one of the biggest problems for this is, and I will go back to praising this song in a minute, but as always on this channel, we're honest. We talk about these things completely honestly, the good and the bad, and I really have to get into the mix before we talk about too much more about this song. Now, a lot of you now have seen, because I talked a lot about how compression's used on this channel in a lot of reviews, and a lot of people are unfairly biased against compression, but it can be really awful, and I have slagged off some songs before for using compression badly. This was a mixture of bad mixing and bad compression. Now, I'm going to be doing a video about mixing soon, but if you want to hear more about compression and how that works and what it really is, if you don't know, because I like this music theory not to be jargon, then there is a video on this channel which you can check not so long ago, which is about compression. Go watch that, and it will show you what compression is, how it works, what it basically does in a piece of music. Now, in that video, I was talking about how compression can be used on the total of a song, but often, actually very often, it's actually used on the individual instruments as well, just to calm them down so there's no spike in the sound of an instrument. The most obvious example of that is when you have heavy metal guitars. The very amplifier itself is a form of compression, because that's what it does. It distorts everything. It's not cynical. It's just a natural byproduct of distorting guitar, is that it flattens out the volume. It makes it more of a consistent block of sound. So that's fine. You expect that from guitar. Often that will be enhanced in a lot of metal music just to make the guitar basically full on all the time, so the guitar's got sort of unquestionable intensity to it. Whether or not that's a good thing is often questionable. I guess the best way, if you wanted to judge that, is if you listen to some like older metal. Do you find older metal more impactful? I think a lot of people would say it's not as loud. If you were to listen to something like you sort of, I always get my metal references for old school metal are probably really not the best ones, but I would say, AC/DC, Iron Maiden, Metallica, Black Sabbath. Do you regard them as heavier sounding than modern bands? You sort of take your pick. The question would be, because in a purely scientific looking at the waveforms, modern bands are louder because the sound's designed to maximize. However, the older bands could be argued to have more impact because the notes, you get more of a taper off on the notes, you get more variation. So when loudness comes in, it feels questionably more impactful. So what you regard as being heavy is actually kind of subjective to probably your own experiences of the music you've grown up listening to. What generation you grew up in can completely change your feeling on what sounds heavy to you. So when I hear this, okay, guitar's presented in a very sort of compressed way. So I think it's definitely the modern style. Certainly of the last 20 years, that's the way that it's been done. However, it also seems that the drums are really compressed as well. Now, especially when you've got a drum beat that seems to rely a lot on double kick pedals, a compressed drum beat, you can use a little bit of compression on a drum. That's not unusual. But if you do too much, it starts to sound rather lifeless. It doesn't have much punch. And I was thinking to myself in little moments throughout that song, it's like, why is the drum beat not kicking through? Excuse the pun. Why is it not sort of punching through the sound and really having an impact? I was like, is it because it's mixed too quiet, or is it because of the fact that it's not mixed bassy enough in the EQ for it to really sort of rumble the floor, or is it that it's compressed to the point where no particular part of the drum kit seems to have much punch? And I could only assume it was something of a mixture of all three. I mean, it's one that I have to go back and analyse. I don't want to spend too much time focusing on that when there was so much in the arrangement. But just thinking about it overall, I kind of got the feeling it was just kind of all veered in the wrong direction, away from having any impact. Because listening to the beat, it did have some double kick drum bits to it, especially at the beginning. But it wasn't so absurdly laden with constant hammering that it didn't have, enough. It had its quiet and loud moments. It had its spaces between beats to give it impact, and yet it didn't feel like it had any impact. That was noticeable right from the very beginning when it first comes in with that heavy beat, and it feels completely lackluster. It doesn't really hit you at all. So I do think there was some real bad choices in how it was mixed and probably produced as well. So, like I say, the studio side of this song, it's very much of a style that some people do like, and I know there was a lot of bands, certainly a lot of the music released in the early 2000s of a metal style, or most rock styles, was massively full of compression on every instrument, compression on the whole thing total. So, that is a style that some people really like, but here I just think it sounds technically rather dead. And the fact that's probably also, if those sound so thick and compressed, is probably also why the vocal sounded like it just disappeared, because the sound of the song was already so fleshed out and filled with maximized sound from the instruments that the vocals just kind of disappeared, because they're not singing in a heavy way. There's a sort of a melodic quality to how they're singing, but you couldn't really get much of their voice because it was buried, which again I think comes down partly to the fault of how it was produced and partly down to how it was mixed, if I'm honest with you. So these are my assumptions. I could go through it technically, but that's certainly the way it sounded. And I just think that on a technical scale, although I get the style they were going for, it left the song sounding very dead. However, on a writing side, really liked it. I thought it was really nicely done. I thought it was interesting. The performance of the vocals, like I said, I couldn't really hear them enough to give a proper, genuine assessment, but I liked the fact that it was done in sort of a soft, melodic style over this dramatic beat. It or dramatic music, arrangement. It gave it a feeling of being kind of, how to say it? It had a sort of a weird nostalgic feel, almost kind of like that sort of juxtaposition, in the same way that sort of a twinkling music box is often associated with horror movies. Sometimes that juxtaposition between something heavy, something dark, and something soft and light, if done properly, can have a real impact. And I think that's what worked here. As I say, it had good changes, good arrangement. The chorus certainly did build on me over time, and I thought the use of the synthesizer in the chorus was really good as well. It was subtle. It wasn't jarring, didn't stick out too much. Actually, that was probably the best mixed thing about the whole song. But it worked in its own way. It was just a little bit of a sort of a back and forth scale that kind of gave an extra little bit of thickness to that part of the song, so it kind of announced it as the chorus without doing anything over the top. So, yeah, I can safely go away from this saying I enjoyed it, and I definitely would be interested to hear more of this band. Luckily, you guys have already given me a list of suggestions that I've taken my time to get round to, so I've got more of those songs that I will dive into very soon, I'm sure, certainly in the next month or so. But yeah, this is a good band. From what I can see, I'm looking forward to hearing more of them. As always, you guys, you know the artists. I don't pre-research things because I can't give a genuine first reaction if I do. But at this point, if I'm going to listen to more of them, it's really nice to have you guys take me through the journey. So tell me more about the band. If you haven't heard the band or you don't know the band, give me your opinions. If you do know the band, give me your opinions. Either way, opinions in the comments is really appreciated. Liking, subscribing. You've got all our other social media for more discussion linked in the description below. Facebook, Twitter, Discord, Reddit, and the Patreon, because our Patreon supporters, we love you. You keep our channel going. So thank you. And anyway, thank you though for making it through to the end of this video. So like I say, get involved, and if you do want to stick around a bit more, then from Japan, hopefully we'll be able to see you soon in the next video. But for now, ciao ciao.